Hello everyone, welcome to my presentation today. What we'll be basically talking about is the top 5 things smart contract developers don't actually tell you about NFTs. And I find it kind of curious that those misconceptions still live on to this day. First of all, thank you to ETH for providing the facility where we are today. Also, a little thing about me, I'm a smart contract developer for more than 1.5 years, and I've also worked in programming and doing programming jobs for the last 4 to 5 years. What we basically do is we develop smart contracts for customers, and that's why I thought, well, let's bring you the top 5 secrets where we are always like, yeah, you can technically say that in your PR, but it's also technically not right, because we as developers, we know a little bit more about the tech that is out there in the PR. So what we're basically looking at today is the actual smart contract. What does it do? We're looking at decentralization and centralization. So how centralized is your NFT actually? That will be really interesting. Also, we're looking at the social consensus layer, because what we're always talking about is the blockchain consensus, right? We're always talking about, okay, is the blockchain decentralized, is it not? Well, but there's a whole social system around it. So if we all agree that we go to Ethereum, we all go to Ethereum, right? Think about it. Then we will talk about royalties. Like, the royalty discussion is kind of a funny one, because as a developer, I can only laugh at it. That's basically what I'm saying. Well, it only exists in your dream, kind of. We'll get to it. And from a developer perspective, NFTs are, at their current state, actually quite boring. We'll get to that. NFTs themselves are not that boring, but we'll get to the technicalities of why they are actually. So what does the smart contract do? Well, yeah, sure. Okay. The smart contract is what associates our wallet address with our token, right? So we can go to the blockchain and we can look up, okay, this is my wallet address and I own that token, right? And that's what it does. That's basically all it does, actually. It doesn't do anything else besides letting you transfer your token. Think of a house, for example. A house has a street address and a street number. Your street number, like where you actually live, that is the token ID. Then you have the smart contract, basically your city, which is stored in, okay, at that street, you're living. Okay. Well, what does it mean? Okay, your wallet address, which is your actual personal name on the blockchain, which is you, that's just your Ethereum or whatever network address. The token ID is the specific NFT you own, and the token URI, the token URI, is where do you find the metadata of the NFT. Metadata is interesting because metadata is everything. Without the metadata saying what the image is and what properties it has, you can't really know what kind of NFT you actually have. Take VFriends, for example. If you have a VFriend and you're not looking at the metadata, you don't know if you actually have a spectacular or not. You can just go to the smart contract of VFriend Series 1 and you know that you have a Series 1 instead of a 2. But you don't know if it's spectacular or not, which will actually make a big difference. So how does it work? Well, how can you think about it? There are 2 big boxes, right? Look at those 2 boxes. You have what is happening on-chain, so you have the smart contract. And then on the other side, you have what's typically off-chain. So that is all the metadata and the artwork that you see that is not stored on the blockchain. Not stored on the blockchain, yes. That means I, as a developer, can go and change your artwork. If that is not stored on the blockchain, I can go ahead and change it. For VFriends, for example, what they do is each year after VCon, they go ahead and they change the off-chain metadata to show that there are only 2 VCons left. Like after last year, they changed it, so now it's only 2023 and 2024 VCon redemptions that are left. That is not happening on the blockchain. They do it on their own servers. They just update the file and your NFT gets updated because the smart contract says, oh, you have a VFriend that is owned by you, your wallet address, for example, by Vitalik. That VFriend has a token URI, so the link that points to the metadata, and then you go ahead and you click that link, you see, oh, that's the metadata, and that changed, right? That's basically it. That's how you have to think about a smart contract and what it actually does, like what an NFT actually is. The smart contract is just storing some data to show you what NFT it is, and also who owns it. And then you can also change that data. So how centralized are NFTs actually? If we go back and look at that slide, we can see that this off-chain stuff isn't decentralized, right? If the vFriends server goes down, I think it's AWS. If AWS goes down, your NFT is basically not reachable. What Bored Apes, for example, did is they put all the metadata on Arweave. Arweave is a decentralized permanent blockchain storage solution. So they have kind of a blockchain-like system where they store the data, and because it's blockchain-like and you have the history and consensus and you need to keep all the files, otherwise that Arweave system would be corrupt, you're guaranteed that your data stays on the network, which isn't the same as IPFS. IPFS is decentralized, but it's not permanent. And Arweave is permanent decentralized storage, so then that would also kind of be on-chain. There are also on-chain NFTs, which are fully on-chain, but that's the most decentralized you can get. So NFTs aren't actually that centralized, right? That decentralized, sorry. Because, well, in marketing you always hear, oh, we did an NFT. It must be decentralized, right? We did an NFT. Ha 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 ha. What if I can tell you that as a developer I own the tokenery? I can change in typically most smart contracts where your image is pointing. Why isn't that a good idea, or why is it? Why it is a good idea is because you as a project owner can then go ahead and change something. So if you forgot something or if you want to add something later, you can still change it. But for the user itself, they typically have to be afraid because you could change that and rug pull the whole project. So you could say, okay, yeah, I'm changing the token already to a black image, and now you have nothing. We do another whole smart contract, mint out the same thing again. That's what you could do. So if the developer owns the metadata, what can you do to check if the developer actually owns the metadata? You can go to Etherscan, go to the contract. There says like contract, and then you have read contract. And then you can see who owns the actual smart contract, and if it's the zero address, like 0x00000, then that means that there's no developer who can change the token URI if that URI is, like that URL is not pointing to a web page. This is an example of the Bored Apes smart contract. Bored Apes did that. The Bored Apes can't change the token URL anymore, so they are not in control of your metadata, which is a good thing. For vFriends, that would probably be one of the vFriends wallet addresses. So you basically trust the whole vFriends company and, in extension, Gary, to not change anything, which is also fine if you trust Gary enough, right? That's just something to be aware of. So decentralization is a choice, right? We talked about it, like Bored Apes can't change anything anymore. Gary, vFriends, they can, when they want to. After each VCon, they want to show you in your NFT metadata that there's only one less redemption for VCon, right? Because otherwise you think, oh yeah, I can go to 3 VCons. No, you can't. Like one already happened. How can you go there? You're not a time traveler. So it's a choice. You have to look at your project and see, okay, what do I actually want to do? Do I need to change that in the future, or do you want to make that permanent? And it's a hard decision. In most customer projects, I tell them just let us leave it in, because if you have made a mistake or if you want to change it, then you actually can. Otherwise, just don't use it, right? And there's the social consensus layer, which kind of goes into that. Otherwise, don't use it. Otherwise, don't use it. So if they get hacked, I, as a hacker, could do it. Yeah, I could. And social consensus is kind of interesting in a way. The merge, like the Ethereum merge, happened around 2 or 3 months ago. What happened is Ethereum went from proof of work to proof of stake, which was kind of interesting, but there were 2 chains right now. There was like an old Ethereum, and there was a new Ethereum, which we all wanted to go to. We all wanted to go to. Like this herd of people, us, we decided we are going to the new Ethereum. If we decided, no, we're sticking to the old one, that new one wouldn't have even been called Ethereum or have taken off, or we wouldn't have transitioned over. So whatever the herd decides is what happens. If people think NFTs are a scam, then they will think NFTs are a scam, and so they are. If people think NFTs aren't a scam, then they aren't. So it depends on the social layer, the social people around it. If people accept that VFriends isn't fully on chain because they need to change it and that's what they do, it's the business, we all do, we're fine. If we didn't, then we would go and roar against VFriends, right? If we said, well, yeah, Bored Apes can't change anything in the future, so if there's a legal dispute, they can't change it, so what do? Oh yeah, we're screwed. Then people would be afraid and go against it. But people are fine with both. People know, okay, yeah, VFriends, I trust them, they have to do that, they have to change it, it's what they do. Bored Apes, they just have to exist. And that's basically why they don't need to change anything. Everything that happens in Ape is like in the Discord or in the Ape DAO and all that kind of stuff. So that's fine. It just depends what the social layer is doing, right? So what does the social layer do with royalties for a change? Royalties are fun. Royalties are artists can actually get part of their sales, right? So if I'm selling an NFT on a marketplace, that marketplace is giving you as the artist a share. If you think about the traditional artwork, Van Gogh, for example, he died, and afterwards his paintings got famous and expensive and all that kind of stuff. Which means that his family, because they don't own the paintings anymore because they got sold earlier, they don't get a single cent. They don't get anything out of it besides the name. So if they had royalties, then they would get a cut of each sale. But how do you do that, right? In the real world, me as a collector, I'm not going to pay you a royalty to take off my profit, right? On the blockchain, that's actually the same discussion. Like marketplaces have been paying out royalties. If I did a sale on OpenSea, for example, they give you a royalty. But they do that. It's a marketplace who does that. And now there are different marketplaces who don't pay out the royalty, which means those marketplaces, they don't give you a cent like it's in the traditional artwork. And in the blockchain space, it has always been the case that it was advertised as, oh, we have royalties. So why are they just a dream? Why can marketplaces not pay royalties, and why do I argue that there will never be 100% guaranteed royalties? Enforcing royalties, like forcing you to actually pay royalties all the time and have to pay them, means you can't transfer your NFT for free anymore. Because if I can transfer the NFT, if I can take the NFT and give it to you for free, just by paying some blockchain fee for processing, that means the creator doesn't get a cent because I didn't sell it, I just gave it away. But what if I gave it away to you, but in return we agreed that you pay me, just not on a marketplace? That's what's been happening at the moment, and that's basically what will happen all the way in the future, because you can't change the current smart contracts, so those will stay the same. But you could change the marketplaces, right? They could pay royalties. Yeah, they do. So you can't change that. But for future collections, what could you do in the future so future collections actually get royalties? You could make transfers not free anymore. So if I want to give you the NFT, I have to at least pay, let's say, 10 euros or $10, and of those $10, I get one. So for each transfer, I get $1. But that means that if I, as a person, change from a MetaMask wallet to a hardware wallet, then I would have to pay $10 at least, and one of those would go to you, right? That could be the thing, but that could mean that, oh yeah, if now I'm selling it for 10,000, I only have to pay 10 to transfer it over, and you would get $1 out of my 1,000, and you wouldn't get the royalty that you wanted. So I can still go to the lowest possible transfer fee to have no royalties. So that's the whole issue, right? So what that means is, I would argue that enforcing royalties on chain is impossible, because you can't really get the royalty if you don't make transfers free, because I can just use the cheapest amount. Okay. So that's why royalties are basically a dream. And why are NFTs boring? It's a bold statement, right? NFTs are boring. Like, we're all here and we're all excited about it, right? But NFTs are boring in a technical perspective. There hasn't been anything too new in the space. NFTs have basically been the whole Open Zeppelin smart contract. Then there was some gas optimized from the Azuki team, which is really cool. But it's the same thing. The NFT does the same thing. Like we've reached a point where when CryptoPunks started, they had a whole new contract. Everybody was trying to figure it out. Now we have standards. Everything is standardized. If you do an NFT, it's very likely going to be kind of the same thing. And most projects don't add a twist to it. So for me as a developer, if I get asked, can you do my NFT project? It's okay, yeah, take that standard, I just adapt it to you, which takes a couple of hours. Then we have to do a full week of testing. We do a week of testing. And most of the stuff that's actually happening is I need to take a lot of time with you to talk about it, what you actually want to add. Like, do you want to have a pre-sale? How is your minting process going to go? How do you want to sell it? What should the royalties be, and so on. That's the most work. It's not actually technical programming. This is the most work. The utility is Web 2 technology. So if we have to build a minting page, that is where the most of the time goes. It goes into the minting page, like building the whole web page, which is Web 2 technology. So it's not actually an NFT. It's just build a website and build a store for me. It's basically what you're saying. And most customers have been done already. So, oh yeah, you want a pre-sale? It's been done already. Okay, fine, sure, let me do your pre-sale. But there was a project we had where we wanted to do a leveling system. Like the guy who we did the project with, he said, I want to play a game with the people and then my NFT should level up, that should all be on-chain. We're like, oh, what do you mean all on-chain? He's like, yeah. There's one thing where the character has to climb. Let's play doodle jump. Like doodle jump where you have to go up. You always go up, climb something. And if you're on top, have a certain high score, then your NFT can level up. We did it. That was really interesting. That was totally new for us. Like building a game and have the game then sent to the smart contract that your high scores actually reached without you being able to cheat. That's really interesting. But those things are seldom happening, so that's why NFTs are kind of boring in a way. And I'm happy to hear from anybody who has ideas. We can talk afterwards on how to do an NFT project differently, because that would be the most interesting right now. So what does it mean for you? What it means for you is think outside the box. Don't think just, let me do a NFT. Let me phrase it differently. Think about what can you do with the NFT, then go to the developers and tell the developers, okay, yeah, I want to do that. And then we can think about it, because otherwise you're just in the same box as everybody else. It also means that as a developer, I have more control over the NFT than most people believe. If I can change the token early, I can change the whole NFT. It looks different tomorrow. That's something to be aware of. Just have it in your head on how the technology works. And also royalties will probably never be 100% enforced. It's always me as a buyer deciding to use a marketplace that pays royalty because, well, I want the karma or whatever, right? And that's basically my whole presentation. Feel free to check out the company website. There's a blog. If you're a technical person, feel free to check it out. There's a lot of stuff on Ethereum and NFTs especially. We are blogging, we're having a wiki, so you can look up things when you're trying to develop your first smart contracts, or if there are any advanced stuff that you want to know, just go there, have a look at the search, and feel free. Thank you, everybody.